Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're doing something really fascinating. We're essentially deconstructing the hidden architecture of financial surveillance. We're looking at exactly how regulatory authorities mandate private businesses to act as a sort of intelligence gathering grid to intercept illicit funds. And we aren't just skimming the surface level rules of high-value transactions here. We are going to dig deep. We're looking at the implicit assumptions, the actionable insights, and that underlying systemic logic that literally transforms everyday commerce into a highly sensitive monitoring network. So if you want to really understand the precise mechanisms used to track underground money, you are absolutely in the right place. Let's dive right in. Pose this question to yourself for a moment. How exactly do authorities track illicit funds when those funds are deliberately hidden inside totally legitimate business transactions? It's a huge problem, right? Well, the answer lies in a highly specific, mandatory reporting mechanism. Legitimate commerce provides the absolute perfect cover. Think about massive illicit operations, whether we're talking large-scale tax evasion, launderers trying to clean narcotics profits, or intricate networks of terror financing. They all require a cleaning phase to integrate that wealth into the visible, legal economy. So, by mandating the reporting of large physical cash injections, authorities place this systemic choke point right at the cash register. It's brilliant in its design because it forces the shadow economy to expose itself the exact moment it tries to interact with the legitimate market. Section 1. The cash reporting mechanism. To build this whole surveillance framework, regulatory authorities had to establish a strict baseline. The fundamental assumption here is that modern, legitimate commerce operates almost entirely through traceable, digital, or banked channels. Therefore, when massive amounts of untraceable physical cash suddenly appear out of nowhere in a retail or commercial setting, it's inherently anomalous. The system instantly demands a paper trail, and the exact trigger for that trail, $10,000. Now, this isn't just a casual suggestion or a ballpark figure. It is the precise mathematical threshold that automatically initiates mandatory intelligence gathering. If a single transaction, or even a tightly connected series of related transactions, breaches this exact $10,000 mark in physical currency, the business owner is legally obligated to capture the data. This creates a systemic dragnet, basically ensuring that significant physical wealth cannot change hands without an alert immediately being dispatched to the authorities. Section 2. Identifying suspicious behavior. So the analysis actually gets much deeper than just, counting stacks of dollar bills. Authorities are actively requiring business owners to act as behavioral observers. They are looking for specific, suspicious behavioral triggers during the transaction process itself. Suspicious behavior is explicitly defined as any attempt by the paying party to submit fake identification, purposely provide incomplete or vague data, or maybe coerce the business owner into bypassing the report entirely. The critical actionable insight here is this. If a business observes this behavior, the framework strongly advises filing a specialized intelligence report, even if the transaction falls way below that $10,000 threshold. The cause and effect relationship here is crystal clear. Suspicious intent entirely supersedes the mathematical threshold. At that point, the math no longer matters. The behavioral intent is what counts. Section 3. The notification paradox. This brings us to where standard business compliance basically crashes head-on into covert criminal surveillance. Usually, routine business transactions require total transparency between the buyer and the seller, right? But when we enter the realm of tracking illicit finance, that transparency is deliberately fractured. Under standard non-suspicious cash reporting rules, the business must provide formal written notification to the payer by January 31st of the following year, just letting them know that their large cash transaction was officially reported. However, and this is a massive however, if that exact same transaction was flagged by the merchant as suspicious, notification to the payer is strictly prohibited by law. The merchant is legally mandated to maintain complete silence. You absolutely cannot tip off the transacting party that they've triggered an intelligence report and are now the subject of a potential investigation. It's a total paradox. Furthermore, even in standard, completely non-suspicious transactions where that annual notification is required, the official guidelines explicitly discourage handing over an exact physical copy of the generated report to the payer. Why? Well, the raw data matrix required by authorities contains highly concentrated, highly radioactive sensitive data. We're talking employer identification numbers and personal social security numbers. The system implicitly acknowledges that the exact data it demands is exceptionally dangerous if it's mishandled in a standard merchant-customer interaction. Providing a summarized statement is allowed, sure, but handing over that raw government data profile creates a severe, totally unnecessary security risk. Section 4, Defining Cash Equivalents. To truly understand this regulation at an expert level, you've got to realize that authorities aggressively define cash as far more than just stacks of paper bills. They do this to preemptively close any systemic loopholes. Cash naturally includes physical US dollars and foreign currency, obviously. But the framework also explicitly categorizes cashier's checks, money orders, bank drafts, and traveler's checks as physical cash when utilized in these specific contexts. Because think about it, these specific instruments share the untraceable anonymity of paper money. The reporting mechanism requires precise mathematical aggregation. So let's say a client attempts to obscure their wealth by handing a merchant $3,000 in literal cash, a $6,000 cashier's check, and a $2,500 money order. The system views that as a singular $11,500 cash transaction. Boom, it breaks the threshold. The merchant must calculate the total aggregate of all these anonymous instruments combined. You really can't get around it. Section 5, Data Precision Requirements. Right, so once that threshold is met, we enter a realm of extreme data precision. Regulatory authorities do not want your vague guesses. They demand microscopic accuracy to eliminate ambiguity and build highly accurate profiles of exactly where capital is moving, and more importantly, exactly who is moving it. Generic descriptions fundamentally fail the standard required by this framework. If a client is paying with massive amounts of cash, a merchant cannot simply list their occupation as business or self-employed. That doesn't fly. Authorities require exact occupational classifications: plumber, lawyer, auto dealer. And for the assets being acquired, you definitely can't document it as just vehicle or equipment. The framework requires unique trackable identifiers. They want the exact vehicle identification number, the precise real estate property address, or specific manufacturing serial numbers. Now, this strict precision creates immense psychological pressure on the business owner. You might be asking yourself, well, what if the client simply refuses to provide that exact data? Trust me, the system deeply anticipates this exact friction. Blank fields are considered fundamentally non-compliant. A merchant cannot simply write vague terms like unknown or just leave the form blank without facing potential severe penalties themselves. The framework actually forces the business owner to confront uncooperative clients. If a client refuses to provide their identification, the merchant must thoroughly document their exact attempts to gather the data and formally explain the client's refusal right there in the official comments section. The burden of proof rests entirely on the business owner to shield themselves from liability and prove they attempted to enforce compliance. Section 6, Aggregate Volume and Digitization. We're currently witnessing this massive, forced, systemic transition from the era of physical paper filing right into a centralized digital surveillance matrix. The authorities have basically built a systemic trapdoor to pull businesses into the digital realm based entirely on aggregate volume. See, it's not simply about how many of these specific high-value cash reports a merchant files. The systemic logic dictates that if a business generates 10 or more informational returns of literally any kind across their entire operation in a calendar year, for instance, let's say 5 standard employee tax forms and 5 independent contractor forms, that aggregate total of 10 automatically triggers mandatory electronic filing for their high-value cash reports as well. The sheer aggregate volume of just doing normal business forces the merchant directly into the digital surveillance system. Now, once a business hits that digital mandate, The pathways to bypass it are, well, they're incredibly narrow. To remain in the physical paper era, a merchant must either apply for and be formally granted an undue hardship waiver by the authorities, or they must claim an automatic religious exemption. And that religious exemption actually requires explicitly writing the words religious exemption across the very top of their physical document. Why are these exemptions so incredibly rigid? Because the system is designed to ensure maximum uninterrupted data flow into centralized databases. It's only accommodating the absolute legal and constitutional minimums required for exemptions. Finally, there's this profound long-tail liability embedded deeply within this whole architecture. Business owners are legally required to retain strict, highly accessible digital archives of all these surveillance submissions for exactly 5 years. Think about that for a second. It's not just about reporting a suspicious transaction in the moment and being done with it. The merchant essentially acts as an off-site server for the regulatory authority, holding on to potential evidence and maintaining a historical database that authorities can audit long after the actual commerce has concluded. Which brings us to a final, pretty provocative thought. As we step back and really analyze the sheer depth of this reporting mechanism, behavioral tracking, the extreme data precision, the enforced digital archiving, we have to ask, in our highly digitized economy, is the fundamental responsibility of policing illicit finance shifting permanently onto the shoulders of the private business owner? They're no longer just merchants selling goods, they are literally the required frontline sensors for regulatory authorities. Thank you for joining me in this deep analytical breakdown. Keep questioning the systems around you, and I'll see you in the next explainer.